Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate this. First, good morning to you and to the ranking member and to everyone here. Mr. Vilsack, Mr. Secretary, I thank you for being here as well. And last time you were before the committee, as you may remember, New Mexico was facing some really large fires, the largest in our state's history. And I just want to say I appreciate your support and your help to keep in mind the families of New Mexico and the challenges that those families are facing. So thank you for that. As you would suspect, not all families have received all the support that I hope that we'll be able to work together to ensure that they benefit from. But the way that the teams are working now and the attention, I just want to recognize that. Now, Secretary Vilsack, the questions that I have are surrounding that fire. And the first one I have is, when the federal government is responsible for a disaster, like they were in this case, such as this wildfire, does the federal government have the responsibility to support the recovery?
Absolutely.
And can I count on your support to ensure that everyone in your department knows that getting New Mexico the resources needed to meet the needs of residents is a priority of the administration?
Yes. In fact, Senator, we worked with your governor to establish a opportunity for there to be a meeting where we had multiple agencies and mission areas from USDA present that would allow an easy time for folks to fill out the applications and to figure out what potential benefits there might be and help there might be. So we continue to look for ways in which we can be helpful.
I very much appreciate that. Now, last month, the USDA's Equity Commission released a 37-page report with 32 recommendations designed to advance racial equity among USDA's programs. And I applaud the initiative. In order to better implement these recommendations, accurate data matters. So I want to applaud and encourage that deep dive. Now, in March of 2022, I sent a letter to USDA asking for a breakdown for New Mexico based on gender, race, ethnicity, for farmers and for programs. And earlier this year, I received a response, and the numbers concern me. They're a bit startling for me in New Mexico. And one of the reasons is this: Hispanic or Latino producers constitute about 34% of the farms back in New Mexico. Yet in 22, they received only 9.5% of guaranteed loans and 23% of direct loans. Now, this one program shows where there's room for improvement. Now, Secretary Vilsack, what is USDA planning to do to address this longstanding problem, and how can Congress support those initiatives?
Senator, one of the challenges we have is getting information out about the various programs at USDA so people can apply. So we have entered into contracts with 85 separate organizations in which we're asking those organizations that have connections to communities, Hispanic communities, African American communities, et cetera, asking them to assist us and help us in getting information out to people about programs and then providing guidance for those folks in terms of how to apply. So that, I think, over the course of the next several years, our hope and belief is that we're going to see more folks walk through the door, more folks understand what they have to be able to successfully apply for resources, and more folks getting resources. Everyone in our team understands the importance of making sure that we are providing the kind of help and assistance that people need. And that's, so the cooperators is one area. The second area is NRCS, our conservation folks. Now, the first operation is the folks who do the loan programs, FSA. NRCS has a series of contracts as well with over 100 organizations to do virtually the same thing in terms of conservation and conservation investments. So we're trying to do a better job of expanding outreach. The third thing we're doing is working with Hispanic serving organizations and haikus and universities, trying to make sure that they also understand that they have an opportunity to help us with extension. So we're looking for ways in which we can provide assistance. We've just recently hired a series of liaisons to work with a number of those universities to be able to provide more extension services. So there's a massive outreach effort right now.
I appreciate that. Mr. Secretary, along those lines, my office has invited USDA to participate in some educational sessions, and your team has been very open, and those sessions have been welcomed by farmers and families across New Mexico. So I appreciate that, and I'll make sure we are doing more along those lines as well to partner with you and get that word out and see what we can do to also do our part to increase application.
We've also simplified the application process. It was, I think, 29 pages. It's now 13. Still probably too long, but better than 29.
Well, and as you clearly know, that was one of the challenges with some of the programs out there. There was one that we worked on together here for help with the acequias for the irrigation programs. And the first application, when I went to visit this, the acequias in Mora, New Mexico, one of the communities that was hit by the fire, one of the folks came in with boxes of paperwork. And they said, we can't do this again. And USDA responded, and we're working to streamline that. And I know that progress has been made in each of the farm bills, and the chair helped me quite a bit when I was in the House to get some support to them. So look forward to working with you more in that space.
Language is also an issue. The report that you mentioned, it's the first major report that was published both in English and Spanish.
I very much appreciate that. Madam Chair, I do have some questions in the area of SNAP. I just want to emphasize that in New Mexico, about 40% of the SNAP beneficiaries are children, and they don't get a say over how much folks are making and whatnot. And I think we all agree that kids that are going to school with something in their belly is a good thing, or when they're there and they're more attentive. And I certainly hope that we can come together as a body, as a family here, to make sure that we're working in that regards. But it's also a program that benefits rural producers. And the more that we can do that and concentrate on kids and work on making creating more certainty for farmers, especially in rural parts of the country, I think that's a winner for all of us. So I know it'll be a discussion, but I certainly hope that we find some common ground there. The last piece that I wanted to touch on, Mr. Secretary, as time runs out here, and I think I'll just mention it, is the work that's being done, and Senator Bennett is really leading these efforts. Senator Hickenlooper has worked on some working groups here, but especially in the area of drought and what must be done in western states as well as we look at this. And I certainly look to being part of that conversation, but working with Senator Bennett however I can as he's continuing to lead the charge. But just know he's not alone, and there's going to be more and more members that are going to be pushing with him.
Madam Chair, can I just 30 seconds on this?
Yes. Yeah.
We just issued the Water in the West Working Lands document at USDA, which is going to drive our efforts in terms of drought in the West. We've identified 6 major challenges that producers face, everything from forecasting to more precision utilization of irrigation, and 13 different strategies that we're going to provide resources. Again, the Inflation Reduction Act and the conservation resources that are in that act can help fund that. And so we're interested, and we've also recently announced $25 million towards the Water Smart initiative that the Department of Interior has in terms of drought. So there is a specific focus on drought coming out of the USDA.